Today we are going to talk about Kasher in the Rye. No, not Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Kasher in the Rye by Moshe Kasher. Hello, my name is Floss. This is the Grape Jelly Library where we love to talk about books. I am so glad you could join me. I always look forward to your visit. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you like what you see, subscribe to my channel. I would appreciate it. Okay, let's get straight into this book. Recently, I have finished Kasher in the Rye by Moshe Kasher. He is a comedian, and in this memoir, he details his very difficult adolescence. By the time that Moshe was 12, he was addicted to drugs. By the time he was 16, he was a thief, a vandal, a gang member, a drug addict, a drug dealer, and he suffered from mental health. So he was in and out of rehabs and psychoanalysis. He and his brother David grew up the offspring of two deaf parents who divorced when they were quite young. The father set about to raise the two boys, and the mother kidnapped them from the father and took them with her in an attempt to raise them herself. Being of the deaf community, it was said there wasn't a lot of employment lined up, and so she struggled. She did manage to save enough money to rent an apartment on the side of a bar. So the children grew up seeing a lot of undesirable behaviors from the bar patrons. Let me get a sip. Unsweetened iced tea. Okay, so with all of that said, Moshe had a very difficult and traumatic childhood. I don't want to say upbringing, because he was kind of left to his own devices. His mother did everything in her power to make sure that her son was safe and well, but he was kind of self-destructive, and he just burned a path everywhere he went. He fell in with the wrong crowd. He was hanging around with children. These are children that are doing drugs, and one of his friends actually did 50 tablets of acid at one time, and I could not even imagine what that would feel like. Moshe claims that he was overweight and lazy, and he just didn't give too much concern for anything, or anyone for that matter. He was kicked out of numerous schools. He had no direction in life, and he was perfectly fine with that. There's a point in the book where he's actually physically violent with his mother. That was disheartening to me. And then very perplexing that he decided that he was no longer going to leave his bedroom and visit the bathroom facilities. He was just going to do his business in his room. He would urinate on pile of clothes, in the carpet, in the radiator, in bottles that were already overflowing with urine. Mayim Bialik states this is the very best memoir that she has ever read, and I have to disagree with that. It is definitely not mine. It may be hers, but it's definitely not mine. I found this memoir to be, although engaging and entertaining, I found it to be disturbing and disgusting. And I don't think that Moshe would care that I have such views about this memoir. He put it out there. He was straightforward. He's a straight shooter. He put it out there. Again, he doesn't care what people think or what people say. He's just living his life. So I didn't find enjoyment in this book. I didn't relate to very much about this book, as I did not grow up an adolescent boy addicted to drugs and in and out of rehab, or a desire to get myself arrested. So There isn't a lot of grand things that I want to say about this book, but it's definitely a book that's worth reading. It's been around since 2012, so quite a number of years. So maybe you have read it already. If you have, I would be interested in knowing if you enjoyed it, if you liked what you were reading, or if you're like me and it's just not your thing. Don't get me wrong, I appreciate his story. I appreciate the journey that he took himself on. I just, found a lot of the behaviors. I don't want to blame it on mental health. I want to blame it on alcohol and drug use. That's where I want to blame his behaviors on. I don't really know how much of his disrespect was due to mental health or how much of it was due to drug and alcohol abuse. Now, he does say he was addicted to it, so we all have addictions. We know what it's like to get in that rut and not be able to pull ourselves out of it. So that part I get. The disrespectful part and the violence towards his mother, I guess when an individual sinks so low, there's no depths that they won't sink to. I mean, his mother stood by his side the whole entire time. Did she get mad? Yes. And was she at wit's end? Yes. But she never gave up on her boy. And there's something to be said for a mother's love, for sure. I am going to put this warning out there. Moshe's language is extremely vulgar. He does not hold back. If he thinks it, he says it. And there are quite a few references where I found myself going, ew, that was a little much, but maybe I'm just old and it's just me. This book isn't told with a perspective spotlight on the difficulties of drug and alcohol abuse or mental health or the horrors that come with any kind of addictions. This book is told from a comedic standpoint. So do I think you should read this book? I do think that it's worth taking for a ride. Hop in, take it for a spin. I do think that it's a page turner, and I do think you will completely become engaged in it, especially if you're like me and you do the Audible version. He himself narrates it, and he does a very authentic job at it, being that it is his story. It's supposed to be funny. I don't know. Maybe you will find that it is. I did not. I found it most disturbing. But I do recommend it. Yes, I do. I recommend it. So if you don't know what you're reading next, or if you have a minute, maybe pick this one up. Or at least throw it on your TBR pile. Until we meet again, know that I love you. Be well, be good, be reading, and may all your dreams come true.